Legends are often dismissed as fantasy, stories meant only to entertain or teach a moral lesson. But what if some of these mythical tales were not entirely fictional? What if the terrifying monsters, majestic beasts, and bizarre hybrids spoken of in ancient stories were inspired by real creatures that once roamed the earth, or still do? Today, we dive into the fascinating world where mythology and reality blur, uncovering the truth behind creatures we once thought only existed in our imagination. The griffin is one of the most iconic mythical creatures in history, often depicted as a majestic beast with the body of a lion and the head and wings of an eagle. Originating in ancient Greek mythology, the griffin symbolized divine power and protection. But this majestic hybrid may have a surprisingly down-to-earth explanation. Archaeological evidence suggests that ancient traders and nomads traveling through the Gobi Desert might have stumbled upon the fossilized remains of the Protoceratops, a dinosaur with a beaked face and 4 legs. Without the scientific understanding of dinosaurs that we possess today, it is easy to see how a beaked skull attached to a powerful quadruped body could be interpreted as a half-eagle, half-lion creature. This fascinating case of mistaken identity shows how natural history could have given birth to one of mythology's most enduring icons. Few sea monsters have captured the imagination quite like the Kraken. Described in Norse mythology as a gigantic, tentacled beast capable of dragging entire ships beneath the waves, the Kraken struck fear into the hearts of sailors for centuries. Tales of this leviathan were often dismissed as exaggerations, born from the isolation and dangers of life at sea. However, modern marine biology has uncovered compelling evidence that suggests the legend of the Kraken may be based on reality. Giant squids, which can grow up to 40 feet in length, inhabit the deep ocean and were virtually unknown to science until relatively recently. These elusive creatures are rarely seen alive, but their immense size and powerful tentacles make them a likely candidate for the source of the Kraken myth. Ancient sightings of these creatures, amplified by fear and retelling, could very well have birthed the terrifying legend of the deep-sea monster. Dragons are among the most universally recognized mythical creatures, appearing in stories from China, Europe, the Middle East, and beyond. In the East, dragons are revered as wise, noble, and powerful beings associated with water and prosperity. In the West, they are often depicted as fire-breathing monsters, hoarding gold and laying waste to kingdoms. Despite their contrasting personalities across cultures, the image of a massive, serpent-like reptile remains consistent. The widespread nature of dragon legends may not be a coincidence. Paleontologists and historians believe that early people may have discovered the fossilized bones of dinosaurs or large prehistoric animals. With no understanding of extinction or ancient life, these massive bones, such as large skulls, ribs, and claws, could easily be interpreted as the remains of a dragon. In China, for example, farmers have unearthed dinosaur fossils for centuries, calling them dragon bones. These discoveries may have fueled the powerful myths that continue to influence literature, art, and even modern fantasy to this day. The Cyclops is a fearsome, one-eyed giant first introduced in ancient Greek mythology, most famously in Homer's Odyssey. These beings were said to live in isolation, possess incredible strength, and often threaten or devour any intruder who dared cross their path. The most iconic depiction is of Polyphemus, who captured Odysseus and his crew in a dark cave. But the origin of the Cyclops myth may be far more grounded. Some scholars believe that the myth arose from the discovery of prehistoric dwarf elephant skulls found in Mediterranean islands, such as Crete and Sicily. These skulls feature a large central nasal cavity that, to an untrained eye, might appear to be a single giant eye socket. Without the knowledge of elephants or their anatomy, it is easy to see how ancient people could have misinterpreted these fossils as the remains of gigantic, one-eyed humanoids. Thus, the terrifying Cyclops may have been born from an ancient misunderstanding of nature's remnants. Mermaids have enchanted and terrified sailors for centuries. These half-human, half-fish beings appear in folklore across the globe, from the seductive sirens of Greek mythology to the mystical mamiwata of African traditions. Mermaids are often portrayed as beautiful women who either save drowning sailors or lure them to their deaths beneath the waves. The reality behind these myths may lie in the gentle, slow-moving sea creatures known as manatees and dugongs. These marine mammals, often called sea cows, have rounded bodies, paddle like flippers, and habitually float upright in the water, sometimes even cradling their young in a way that resembles human nursing. Exhausted, lonely sailors spending months at sea might have glimpsed these creatures from afar and imagined them as women of the sea. Through the haze of isolation, longing, and myth, the line between marine biology and magical beings became blurred, giving rise to one of the ocean's most enduring legends. Werewolves are one of the most terrifying creatures in European folklore. The legend tells of humans who transform into wolves under the light of a full moon, becoming uncontrollable, violent, and ravenous beasts. These stories often reflect themes of fear, punishment, and the loss of humanity. From medieval witch trials to modern horror films, the werewolf myth has endured for centuries. But what if the myth had a medical explanation? Historians and scientists suggest that werewolf legends may have originated from real individuals suffering from hypertrichosis, a rare condition that causes excessive hair growth all over the body. In a time when scientific understanding was limited, people with this condition could have been perceived as half-human, half-beast. Additionally, outbreaks of rabies, a disease known to cause aggressive behavior, sensitivity to light, and even hallucinations, may have further fueled the fear of people turning wild. Together, these natural phenomena may have created the perfect storm for the myth of the werewolf. The unicorn is often portrayed as a graceful, horse-like creature with a single spiraled horn projecting from its forehead. Found in both Western and Eastern mythology, the unicorn has long symbolized purity, mystery, and even divine power. During the Middle Ages, unicorn horns were thought to possess healing powers and were sold for enormous sums of money, though they were usually narwhal tusks. Interestingly, unicorn legends may not be entirely baseless. One theory points to the Indian rhinoceros, a massive animal with a single horn and thick, armor-like skin. Travelers and merchants returning from Asia may have described these creatures in ways that sparked the imagination of Europeans who had never seen such animals. Another fascinating source could be the elasmotherium, also known as the Siberian unicorn, a now extinct species of prehistoric rhinoceros with a large central horn. These real creatures, seen through the lens of myth and wonder, could easily evolve into the unicorns of legend. The chupacabra, which means goat sucker in Spanish, is a relatively recent addition to the world of mythical creatures. First reported in Puerto Rico in the 1990s, this creature is said to drain the blood of livestock, especially goats, leaving behind mysterious puncture wounds. Eyewitnesses describe the chupacabra as reptilian, alien-like, or even dog-like, depending on the region. Despite the terrifying descriptions, most chupacabra sightings are now believed to be sick animals, primarily coyotes suffering from mange, a skin disease caused by mites that leads to hair loss and thickened skin. These diseased animals often appear gaunt, hairless, and ghostly in appearance. Combined with unusual livestock deaths and local folklore, these sightings helped give rise to a modern legend that continues to stir curiosity and fear in rural communities across Latin America and the southern United States. The basilisk is a legendary reptile from European folklore, often described as a serpent or lizard so deadly that its gaze alone could kill. Said to be born from a serpent's egg incubated by a rooster, the basilisk was feared for its venom, deathly stare, and terrifying presence in medieval bestiaries and alchemical texts. Modern science suggests that the myth of the basilisk may have been inspired by cobras, especially those with hooded appearances and intimidating behaviors. Cobras can deliver a deadly bite and often spread their hoods to appear larger and more menacing, which could easily be exaggerated into tales of death by sight. Additionally, stories of the basilisk may have been influenced by travelers' encounters with exotic reptiles unfamiliar to Europe at the time. Over time, fear and fantasy shaped these snakes into the legendary king of serpents. Truth hides in legends. Which creature surprised you the most? Let us know, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep your curiosity alive.